welcome to Book Obsession. I'm Ashley Gunn. For anybody who has read Sabrina Bowen's The Ivy Years or something similar to that, I think you'll really like this series. This review is going to be on How to Date a Douchebag by Sara Ney. Right now there's 3 books in the series. The 3rd one will be coming out this September, so next month. Right now, the 2 that I read, I believe I read on Kindle Unlimited, The Studying Hour, and that one is Jameson and Sebastian's story, and then The Failing Hour, and that is Zeke and Violet's story. The one coming out next month is The Learning Hour, so I'm not sure which characters that's going to be about right now. Anyways, let's talk about these books. In the beginning of the first book, you start in the library where Sebastian is hanging out with some of his guy friends, including Zeke. Zeke is trying to find his tutor and dares Sebastian to go and ask this girl if he's Zeke's tutor. When the girl basically ignores him, then Zeke dares Sebastian to get the girl to kiss him, and I think it's like $500, something ridiculous, that they're gonna win if he can get her to kiss him. So Sebastian goes and tries to get this girl's attention, and the girl's basically ignoring him the entire time, and then eventually he just kind of caves and tells her, like, really, I'm trying to get this money, I need the money, and it's a dare, will you please just kiss me and get it over with already? Because he thinks that every woman should just be falling over themselves to have any attention from him, which I think is part of what James is put off by. Anyways, after that kiss, both Sebastian and Jameson are drawn to each other. They run into each other a couple of more times and then eventually try to become friends. Obviously, that's going to turn into something more. Mainly, Sebastian pushes it to become something more. I will say about both of these books, because I think you can probably figure out by the name of the series, the men in these series think very highly of themselves, basically think women should be falling at their feet. They're all on a wrestling team together, and so not so much with Jameson and Sebastian, because Sebastian falls really hard for James and eventually is going to try to be the type of man that can be good enough for Jameson and be a good boyfriend. I think that in the second book, when you're looking at Zeke and Violet, Zeke definitely has very rough edges and it's a little harder to love him. So let's move on to that book. With that book, as I mentioned, you have Zeke and Violet, and you meet them in the beginning of Jameson and Sebastian's book because Zeke is looking for Violet. Violet is his tutor. And unfortunately, she gets really intimidated by him. She has a stutter. Her parents passed away, and since her parents passed away, she's had it. Sometimes it's a little bit more obvious, other times it's not, and I gotta tell you, I found it completely adorable that that was part of this book. Zeke is a giant jerk, and when you put a guy who's full of himself and rude with the woman who has a stutter, he's insensitive. Eventually, Zeke does find out that Violet is supposed to be his tutor and calls her out on it. And they even start seeing each other outside of that because they both volunteer for the same program. Zeke is being forced to by his wrestling coach. His coach is trying to show him to look at other people and not so much on himself, which I think works out perfectly because he ends up with the cutest little brother from that program. Anyways, as they start to get to know each other, I think that Zeke has to become a lot softer because Violet is a very strong, hard person who looks at the world and is kind anyways. Zeke hasn't had nearly the rough background that Violet has, and yet he's got all these hard edges, and he thinks the world owes him something because of what he's been through. So clearly, I mean, he learns that maybe he doesn't have it as bad as he thought he did because Violet has it much worse, and she calls him out on the fact that his behavior is completely uncalled for. Just because you go through things in life doesn't mean that you can push it on everybody else and punish everybody else for it. Incredibly good book. Again, there are, it's a lot of cussing and there's some very erotic thoughts and actions in these books. However, just amazing storylines, and I loved the characters in these. Like I said, these reminded me of the Sabrina Bowen Ivy Years. I don't know, there was something about the characters that when I was reading it felt like they just went well together. If you liked one, you'll probably like the other. Anyways, with that being said, as I mentioned, I believe I got this on Kindle Unlimited, so check that out. I always list the authors, places to get them. That's the very first in my description, so you can check out her link. If you have any questions or comments, leave that down below. If you like my review, like it. And if you want my videos every week, subscribe. Thank you all for joining me. I will see you again soon.